Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming to this speed voter registration training. Just going to go through everything in these slides really quickly. I hope to do it in 12 minutes or less. So here we go. And if you follow along on the slides later on, you can catch the stuff that I haven't gone through. So the important thing to know is that everyone in Ohio who is living in Ohio and is a US citizen and who will be 18 by the 5th of November and who's not currently serving a sentence for a felony conviction can register and vote in Ohio. And that includes out-of-state students. So I always like to say, you know, even if you get no voter registrations, what you're doing is really important. You're out there in your orange voter registration shirt and you're lifting up the importance of voting. You're reminding people about voting. Name changes are important. Address changes and updates are really important. So whatever you do out there, you should feel good about it. And we're trying to capitalize on the energy right now. So what are the basics that I want to make sure that you go over? One really important thing, please use our materials. We have great materials available on the porch at 437 Piedmont Road. And, there are forms that are no longer eligible. There are forms that aren't highlighted, that are not good to use. So just turn in your old stuff and use new stuff that we're happy to provide you with, including an orange shirt, which we feel is really important because they've gotten to be really well known, and folks, come to the orange shirt folks for voter registration and to have their questions answered. So the basics are you're going to have your couple of clipboards, always have two because two people might come up at once. And you've got your highlighted forms, and everything that's highlighted needs to be filled in. Every single box that's highlighted. You're going to use a blue or black pen, and it's really important to tell them to print, to be super legible, to write slowly, to make sure that you can read everything that they say, that they've written down, including the numbers. Help them and guide them. So you're not just going to walk away when they're registering. You're going to be guiding, you're going to be pointing, you are a citizen, you're 18, last name, please print really legibly, super legible. And you're going to go through and you're going to point to each box and make sure that they fill it out correctly. And then before they leave, you're going to take a look, you're going to read it over, you're going to correct any mistakes, and you're going to make sure that there's nothing missing. So what are the most common mistakes? The most common mistakes are that someone doesn't check the citizenship box, which is really important right up at the top here, or they don't put the county, or they don't, they put their birth date in the date signed box, and they don't put an ID. And an ID is really, really important. Obviously, you can't process the form without an ID. Either they're going to use the last four of their social, or they're going to use an Ohio driver's license, temp license, or state ID. And all of those, what you're looking for is 2 letters and 6 numbers. So it's also important for students who are in a dorm at OSU. They don't have to put the name of the residence. They just put the street address, and they put their room number. Please make sure that they're putting their room number, because we need the letters, we need the addresses to be able to receive mail. Because the Board of Elections sends a letter after registration, confirming the registration, giving their polling place and all of that. And if it is returned to sender, then the board assumes that they are not at that address and they don't get registered properly. They get put in confirmation status. Phone isn't required, but we always ask for phone. We highlight it. If they aren't highlighted on your forms, go ahead and highlight them. And we just say, hey, if you put your phone, we can text you a reminder to vote. This is really important because it helps us make sure not just that they're registered, but that they actually vote. So once they've put their phone number, and they said it's okay to text them, then put a little mark in the margin, a check mark or an asterisk, and we will enter them into a database that is going to receive a text reminder. Tell them that they're going to get a letter from the Board of Elections within 2 to 3 weeks, and that they should check it over. And if there are any problems, they should contact their Board of Elections. Now, I recommend that you fill out a form just to practice. Maybe the first time that you go out, if there's a second person there, you can role play and you can fill out registration forms for each other. Take a look at this later and see if you can find all the mistakes. There are many mistakes here. There's things missing. There are things that are inaccurate. And some of them are the common errors that I referred to. Okay, so remember, in Ohio, you just have to be 18 by election day. So 17-year-olds who are going to be 18 by election day can register now. And I will say that although we have online registration in Ohio, it's actually much better to do it on paper, particularly if you're a student. There are many reasons, which I won't go into, why paper forms are better. So even if someone says, you know, hey, I'll register online later, encourage them to fill out the paper form right there. Of course, it's possible for students to use their parents' address instead of their campus address, but we encourage people to register where they're living currently so that they can vote in person, because there are many ways that absentee voting can go wrong. Remember, you do need a valid photo ID to vote in person in Ohio. That's an unexpired physical ID. You can't use a digital ID. You can put it on your phone, but you can't use it to vote. So you need an Ohio license, temp license or state ID, a US passport, a military or veterans ID. And there's some information here about how to help students get IDs if they don't have one. Out-of-state students, they can register and vote in Ohio. And if they have a passport or military ID, they can vote in person. And that's great. If they don't, then they're going to do vote by mail. And we always say start the process as soon as possible. So have them fill out that registration with their campus address. And then they're also going to fill out an absentee ballot request with that same address. We don't have a way to process absentee ballot requests from other states, but if a student is bound and determined to remain registered at home or be registered at home, then they can go to vote.org to look up how to vote by mail from their home state. Okay, about absentee ballot applications. If you do have both, if you have both a voter registration and an absentee ballot request from the same person, please paperclip them together. We have some paper clips on our clipboards for you because they have to be processed together. Make sure that every student who fills out an absentee ballot application knows that they can go to voteohio.gov/track to begin to track their ballot, and they will get a notification when their request is received, when their ballot is mailed, when their ballot is received back, when their ballot is counted. And that's really important. Absentee ballots will be mailed starting on October 8th. And we don't like to do absentee ballot requests closer than 10 days before the election, because the likelihood is that they won't get there. When you fill out the absentee ballot request, first of all, up here in number 2, it is really important to put some contact information, because there's often things that are not quite right about absentee ballot applications, or they're late, or this and that. So the board really appreciates when there's a phone number or email there so they can be in contact with the voter. The address in number 3 has to match the registration address. So we're never going to have an address in number 3 that's from outside of Ohio, because we're only registering people in Ohio or helping them to absentee vote in Ohio. If they are going to be away from home, then the address where they want to receive the ballot is put in number 4, and that can be in another state. It could be overseas, depending on where they're going to be, or they can have it, you know, if they leave it at number 3, then it's just mailed to where their registration address. Number 7, they're going to check November general election. They don't need to put the party. That's only for a primary. Many people think they're registered and they're not, or they think they're registered in one place and they're actually registered somewhere else. So it's always good to check. And there's 2 ways to check. You can check at voteohio.gov, which is the official site. It's kind of a pain, though. You have to look, you have to do CAPTCHA, and you can only look in one county at the same time. Voteforohio.com is a little application that was made for us, which is really great. It looks up in all the counties at once. It gives you all the information right there, and you don't have to put in full information to make it work. So Just remember to put an asterisk if you put incomplete information. I recommend going to voteohio.com, reading the instructions, voteforohio.com, and then trying it out. Find yourself. Remember to put that asterisk. See how little information you can put in. You can put in a partial name, and you should still be able to find everything. So we recommend keeping this open on your phone. So that you can check people. Some people come up and say, I'm not sure if I'm registered. I don't know if I updated. Just keep it open. In fact, it's a good conversation starter. You can just be out there saying, hey, do you want to check your registration? It's a really a great thing. Now, remember, just getting the registration is, you need to give them some more information. So remember to remind them that they're going to get a letter in the mail from the Board of Elections. If they don't, they should be in touch with their Board of Elections. Talk about the date of the election. When does early vote start? What are early vote hours? Remember to offer them a text to remind them to vote. And one other thing, a lot of students, when they go in to vote and the person at in the polling place says, state your address, sometimes they give their home address instead of their campus address where they're registered. Remind them to give their campus address because it has to match where they're registered and what they say out loud. If you're doing a follow-up for an absentee ballot, make sure that they are tracking their ballot. Tell them when it'll be mailed. Tell them some ways that they can return it. They can return it in person to the Board of Elections, at a drop box. They can mail it, but it has to be mailed it has to be postmarked the day before the election. And you can also tell them that Orange Shirt volunteers will be on the OSU campus at least all the way through election day, and we'll be helping with voting questions, stamps, things like that. What are VR supplies? Okay, so you want to take 2 clipboards because often 2 people come up at once. You're going to wear your orange shirt to advertise that you are a voting registration volunteer. We always have highlighted forms. Please don't use old forms that you have sitting around at home. Some of them are not even valid anymore, or they're not highlighted. Please get the materials from our porch. We have absentee voter registration forms, absentee ballot forms. We have dorm addresses. We have a kind of question tree for how to deal with students on Ohio State campus. And we also have on the porch, we have these great quarter sheet flyers, which have all the info that you need for students. We have these pens that you can give away that have the Secretary of State's website on them and the National Election Protection Hotline. We have candy, we have stickers, we have sidewalk chalk. We also have those little countertop go bars that you can reserve in our Sign Up Genius. If you're working with Indivisible Central Ohio, you're going to return your forms to the folder of completed VR forms on the porch at 437 Piedmont, and just put a clip on it and a note saying where you got them. And that is it, folks. So we're always here to answer your questions, and we'll send you also these slides so that you can take a look and go through anything that you have questions about. Thank you so much. Remember to check your forms over before the people walk away and make sure they've got citizenship box, the ID, and the county. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.